Welcome to the Rusted Garden Homestead. This is the fourth video in the series, Gardening for a Family of Four. So in episode 3, I showed you how to build a raised bed. Previous episodes, we talked about seed starting indoors. So we are just getting into the beginning of May. I'm going to show you how to plant some warm weather crops. Tomatoes, peppers, we're going to get them in there. We'll also put in some cool weather crops, some radishes, some other things. We'll do some direct seeding. So this is a 4-foot by 4-foot raised bed. Maybe you built something like this. Maybe you want something bigger. I'm going to be shooting this series in this space. This is about 18 feet by 18 feet. We'll be talking about growing in containers, and over here I have some more raised beds. I have some plants already coming up. I'll show you some growth at the end of this video so you have an idea of, what to look forward to if you are planting your cool weather crops. But I decided to really start the planting series with the warm weather crops because most people are interested in tomatoes, peppers, cucumbers, squash, beans. And at the end of the series, come August, we'll be planting another cool weather vegetable garden, and we'll go over all of that. So I have plenty of videos that show you how to cheaply make your own raised bed mix or container mix. So I will link that video in the video description. But this is basically a combination of peat moss, topsoil, and some compost. And it's the cheapest way to really do it. You can see the peat moss bale that I bought, that's 3 cubic feet. That's usually about, $12 to $15. And then some just basic topsoil that's like $3 a bag. You mix those together 50-50, makes a great blend for your containers, for your raised beds, and then you can add in compost or leaf grow or other materials. But check out the video description. It'll show you how to make your own soil mixes. If you watch a couple of my videos, you'll see that I do things differently sometimes. That's because there's 1,000 different ways to do it. Just pick whatever one works best for you. Wanted to talk a little bit about fertilizing. So this is an organic granular fertilizer. I recommend buying anything that is on sale and has nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium represented. That's NP and K. And those numbers may look like a 546 or a 623. It doesn't matter what they are. Just pick up any organic granular. And this is a slow release. This is going to break down over 2 to 4 months. And this is what you put into your bed when you're first prepping it and getting it ready. You're going to learn a lot more about soil and compost and fertilizers as you begin your journey in gardening. But for right now, I want to show you the easiest way just to get started. This is a 4x4 raised bed. So I go with this exact measurement of about 1 handful. Maybe that's 3 or 4 tablespoons. I don't know. But in a kind of 2-foot by 2-foot square space. So you have here 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4, and then 1 foot, 2 foot, 3 foot, 4. That makes the 4x4. So in a 2-foot square space, I just throw in 4 handfuls of the organic granular. That's going to give the plants something to use over time. You're also going to need to pick up a water-soluble fertilizer like fish emulsion or any fertilizer that mixes with water. We're going to water the plants in with that, and that fertilizer is immediately available to the plant. Now, we're towards the end of April here in Maryland, Zone 7. You want to plant your tomatoes and peppers and your warm crops when there's no more frost in, the upcoming days. So you may be in a place right now where you still have snow. Frost is still in the forecast for the next month, so you wouldn't be planting these. You're gonna have to wait till the temperatures are right. But I am gonna put in some radishes. I will show examples of cool weather crops at the end of this video, so those are something that you can be planting too. But let me mix this all together. We'll talk about getting the tomatoes in, the peppers in, some other plants. Here's the basic setup for tomatoes and peppers. Now, it's later morning. My sun rises this way, and you can see the sunlight's coming in, and then it tracks around here, and then it ends up behind me. So the most sun that I'm getting is coming this way and this way. And that's really important because, and I'm going to be teaching you principles, so you don't have to follow exactly what I do, but I want to teach you the principles so you can adapt them to whatever you need for your garden. So in the back, you want the taller plants. The tomatoes are going to get 6 feet, 7 feet tall. Then the peppers get pretty tall, they go in front of the tomatoes. And then down here I would have radishes and crops that are, lower to the ground. That's because the sun is behind me, let's just say. And if I put the tomatoes right here, then the tomatoes would cast shade down and, block the sun from the rest of the plants. So taller plants in the back, moving towards where your sun is mostly. And that might be 4 hours, that might be 6 hours, just depends on your location. And that's usually the sun, let's just say from 11, 12 to 4 or 5 at night. And that's how you kind of figure out how to plant. In here, I may also put in some green beans right here. Although they get really tall, they're kind of skinny, and they're not going to block the light out because the sun ends up setting over here, so that those beans right there aren't going to cast a lot of shadows that way. But that's pretty much going to fill up this 4x4 raised bed. We couldn't really squeeze in cucumbers, we couldn't really squeeze in squash. They're going to go into another bed, so please subscribe, I'll show you how to do that. I'm also putting in 6 pepper plants. Now, I plant things a lot more closely together. Some things you read online might say, you know, give them 2 feet, 1 plant per hole. Well, I've been planting 2 peppers in a single space for years, and the production is great. So we're going to do that with 2 banana peppers. Then we're just going to do a single red bell, a single, I think that's a keystone, that's a large green pepper, and then 2 jalapenos over there. And you'll see that really there's no difference in how they grow, and we're going to have a nice pepper hedge right there in front of the 2 tomato plants, and we'll get a lot of production out of there. Now, for a family of 4, some people may just want this size bed to get started, or maybe they want 2, or they want to fill up this whole 18 by 18 square foot space because they want to do canning and other things. So that's really up to you on what size you want the garden to be, but a 20 by 20 foot fenced in space is perfect for a family of 4 that really wants to eat out of the garden, wants to maybe can and preserve and do different things. But let's just start here. So in the back, what I recommend is any sort of baseball size slicing tomato. That's a supersonic, that's going to go right there. And then that's a cherry tomato, so any kind of cherry tomato. They're going to need some sort of staking because you're going to trellis that vine upward so that the tomato grows up the you know what I want to say, up the stake or the pole. If you don't trellis or you don't stake your tomatoes, they're these big vines that are just going to fall all over the place and trail everywhere. So we're going to train them up, and I will show you how to do that again if you want to subscribe and follow me. So this is going to be the basic setup. Now, when we plant tomatoes, we'll prune up the bottom. We'll make sure the tomato leaves aren't coming out and bothering the pepper plants, but we're going to have a spacing, something like that. Let me show you the basic way to prepare the planting hole and get these tomatoes and peppers in. These peppers look really healthy. We're going to plant them just above the soil line for what they were in these containers. So we're going to come up maybe a ½ an inch or so right there. I removed some of the leaves to get them ready. Now, your container mix, your raised bed mix, your garden mix, you don't need perfect soil to start. For the first year, 2, 3, you're going to be amending this, you're going to be adding in different things, so you can slowly build the soil. Don't feel like it has to be perfect to start. You absolutely don't need perfect soil. You just need something that holds moisture, drains well, and you got to feed your soil so that the soil then feeds the plants. So we're going to dig a hole about that deep. I'm going to use my fancy measuring system, maybe 1 or 2 tablespoons of the organic granular. You don't want to plant straight on that, so really mix it in several inches. That's going to give the plants fertilizer, and then you're just dropping in your plants right next to each other. We're doing 2 in this space and then covering them over. It's really that simple. Once they're covered in, press them in a little bit. You're going to also have to stake your pepper plants because they're kind of fragile, and when you're picking a pepper they can break. So we'll get to staking down the line. I'm going to remove that leaf right there, that one down here, and that's all I would do, going all the way down for the rest of the peppers. Tomato plant, very similar. This guy looks a little weak. That's because he's drying out, and I'll just do it now. You're going to go down a little bit further because we are going to plant, let's see if I can do this. I always say if I can do this one-handed on camera, you can do it with 2 hands off camera. So I'm going to remove lots of the leaves, just pinch them off. Tomatoes are vines, so whatever part of the stem you put into the soil or you cover, roots are going to come out of there. So it's going to go into the hole. Now I'm hitting the bottom of my raised bed a little bit, so a shovel would probably be easier. But I'm, getting a nice space to drop in the tomato plant. That's too much, so again, 1 or 2 tablespoons mix it through, and that's going to be good for your tomato plant. Then we're going to drop this in, and you could plant it all the way up to here if you wanted to. Not sure how far I can go without a shovel. Let's go to about there. And then just backfill. This has to get watered in. We'll water everything in with the water soluble at the end. And that's all you do for your tomato plant. This is the perfect and most easy way, in my opinion, to plant tomatoes and peppers. You can tweak fertilizers, you can tweak your soil. You don't have to worry about that when you're first getting started. That will all come with experience and time. Just, basic loose soil, some organic granular, and we've already got the garden 1/3 of the way planted. Let me finish this up. My radishes are in. I'll show you how I did that. This is lettuce, a red lettuce and a green lettuce, leaf lettuce, that I started in these little 6-pack cells. I sell all the seed starting supplies at my seed shop if you want to check that out. These were all started outdoors. I didn't need grow lights. These are about 40 days old. 2 or 3 seeds per cell. I just sit them outside in the sun, make sure I can manage the moisture in there. These plants are cool weather crops too. The leaves can freeze, so these have been out here when I've had frosts and freezes, and they do perfectly fine. So the radishes, cool weather crops, can take a frost. Leafy greens, cool weather crops. When it gets warm, you can't really grow these because the roots get too warm and they want to flower and bolt and they just don't produce well. So I'll show you how to plant these plugs too, or basically same thing you would do with lettuce seeds. So now, I don't measure exactly. Everything I say is 1 inch or 2 inches, but I do about 2 finger space for radishes, and that's how I plant. Maybe 1/2 inch deep. I just make a finger hole like that. That's actually in my book. If you want to check out a book, if you're just getting started, you'll see that in the video, and that'll be in the video description. So in each hole, 2 radish seeds. You can see them in there, 1, 2, 1, 2, all the way down, and you just cover them over. All the way across, you have 2 rows of radishes. They will come up probably in about 7 days, 5 to 7 days, depending on how warm it is. They're going to finish in 25 to 40 days after germination, so they'll be gone well before your peppers and tomatoes start producing, and we'll be putting something else out here. Now for lettuces, they will be towards the front. They do get bigger than the radishes, but they're close enough it won't really matter. So you can plant lettuces, let's just say, put in seeds about, I don't know, 1/4 inch, 1/2 inch deep. You could do 4 fingers. Well, 4 fingers would be pretty close. Sometimes you may want to go maybe 6 or 8 inches apart. That's if you're growing a full head of loose leaf lettuce. I grow mine more closely together, something like that. And when I get to about this size, not full heads, I cut off all the leaves, and I use them more as baby greens, leave the roots in, and then the leaves reproduce again. So sometimes you can get 2 harvests out of one planting of lettuces, because you leave in the roots and the leaves come back. So it's really up to you. So you would do spacing like that if you want to grow full heads of loose leaf lettuce, a little bit closer if you're going to let them get to a good size, and then cut them early for salads. So I would just set up something like that. I would drop in 2 lettuce seeds because I don't want to be waiting around for 1 seed that doesn't germinate. You can leave both in there, you can thin to 1, it's really up to you. But I basically would just pop out these plugs just like that. They've been growing a little bit long, but they're okay. Maybe loosen the roots a little bit. These are all going to get fed with a water-soluble fertilizer. You don't have to put in the organic granular like for the peppers and tomatoes. And that's a lettuce plug. And then I will go ahead and do that all the way down here, show you what that looks like. Finish up in this space, and then I'll show you some other cool weather vegetables that are already growing in the garden. So you have your first garden planted. Give yourself a lot of credit. This is going to be very productive. Cherry tomato, basic slicing tomato, 6 pepper plants, some radishes, some lettuce. We'll be changing the front area up over time if you again want to follow me. I'll also show you how to take care of pests, disease, all kinds of different things. So final step here before I go show you some growth of cool weather crops is this is a water-soluble fertilizer. That means the nutrients, the nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium can be picked up right away by the plant's roots. This is fish emulsion, and you're just gonna Water in your leafy greens really well. They're actually like 90% water. So you want to make sure you're watering these 2 or 3 times a week until they're established. The radishes, give them a good soaking. The radish seed will absorb water. That will start germination, start the process of germination. And everyone always asks, how often should I water? Well, that's going to vary depending if it rains or not. That's about how much you want to put on each of the pepper plants. That was a little much on the first one. More something like that. Tomato plants. Watering's going to vary. So if it's raining, obviously you don't have to water as much. If it's been, 7 sunny days, you probably want to be out there watering every second day or third day until these plants are established. When they are established and they've been growing a while, you don't have to water as often, but it's really going to be based on how much rain you have, how big the plants are, how hot it is out. But this sets up your first garden. All right, let's get to my main garden. I'll show you some cool weather crops. If you're just coming out of the freeze, you got a good 6 weeks left of frost, you may want to get in more cool weather crops. These are all crops that can take a frost or freeze. So right in here in the back I have peas. They were started about 45, 50 days ago. Radishes that I've been harvesting, these are French breakfast radishes, and pretty soon you'll have radishes that look like this. We planted scarlet globe radishes, so they're going to be round. I have spinach, peas over here. I have some kale, more spinach. This is what the lettuce is going to look like over time. It's going to get a little bit bigger. More peas in there. I have kale that's protected by ag fabric. If you want to follow me or check out last month's videos, I show you how to plant all of this. That's a bok choy or pak choy, arugula, more lettuce spaced a little bit differently. That's bib lettuce. So everything is doing really well. My cool season's ending. These will mature over the next couple of weeks, and obviously you saw that I have those tomatoes and peppers in. Thanks so much for watching. Hopefully this gives you some confidence to start a garden. We are approaching the warm season, but we're also going to have a second cool season, and we'll start planting for that in August, September, and you'll get all these plants again towards really September, October, November here in Maryland Zone 7. So please subscribe. Please check out my seed shop at therustedgarden.com, and I will show you how to grow an entire garden. Thanks for watching.